All right, welcome back. Hour 2 of Fantasy Sports today here on SportsGrid. Hope you're off to a great start. College basketball coverage coming your way a little bit later here on SportsGrid, so stay tuned for that. And despite the NCAA tournament coming up next week, George and I will be back here once again. It'll be our final look at the fantasy baseball draft season because opening day in the United States is on the 27th of March. So George and I dug into our fantasy draft pockets to pull out some sleepers for you here late. Now, in terms of sleeper, I really went really far off the grid for a lot of my players here. George did too. It's not to say that he didn't, but his players are being drafted while mine, I think, are kind of not being drafted too. But I think it brings up a good conversation. So let's start off with one of mine who's basically completely off the radar, not being drafted in any fantasy league because he's not guaranteed a starting spot. George, that's Randall Grichuk, who to me, if you look at his ADP, it's 687. Okay, so this is not a player. If you drafted a fantasy league and then just kept going forever into the night, he still would not get drafted. But he did hit 12 home runs. He drove in 46 runs. And so what are we doing here with Randall Grichuk? My point of being a sleeper is look what you got for that ADP. You would take that right now if you thought you would get that for this ADP. By the way, if it was 500, you would take it right now. So I think that they paid him enough money where I think he's going to play a little bit. And every player like this is one injury away from getting some more playing time. I don't think he's going to hit 30, and I don't think he's going to hit 300. But it seems, George, like everywhere he goes, he puts together a 100-game season of 10 to 15 home runs and 50 runs driven in. And if he gets more playing time, he does more with it. Can you count on that? No, but that's the point of the segment.
It's funny when I saw your picture. Grichuk's still in baseball. Good for him. Professional baseball. He's literally a professional baseball player. That's what he is. Good for him. You look at it. He needs an injury to get in there, right? Corbin Carroll, McCarthy, Gurriel, Pilot Smith's your DH there, so he needs an injury. Maybe he'll be the second. He can be part of a platoon with Pilot Smith, but it's the wrong end of a platoon, right? He needs the lefty batters there. So NL only, okay, because NL only guy. I don't see him being drafted in most. In mixed leagues, I don't. Another question we got was 18th round or later guys, not 180th round or later. So that's really, I don't have much hope for Grichuk. I think if you told me he was going to get playing time, like McCarthy goes down, he's going to play every day. I think he would actually outdo those numbers. I think he'd hit 20 plus home runs. I do. I think the guy could still play. He's just not a good situation there. But I think he will be the second, the wrong end of that platoon at DH, where he'll face some lefties, but he's going to need a DA. He's going to need an injury probably to get to where you want to go. I would probably be a little bit more interested if that stolen bases wasn't a donut. Once again, I don't have bases. That's always my problem there. The average is good, though. He'll actually help you there. And the power, we know the power is legit here, but you need an injury.
Yeah, no, I would agree on all fronts. All right, it was 1 year ago. I think it was last week, 1 year ago. Maybe it was even further than that John Birdie was traded during spring training to the Yankees. And his ADP is even higher than Randall Grichuk. Birdie was hurt all of last year. They moved him to the Cubs. And the Cubs, George, did not sign Alex Bregman. And they have handed over this job to Matt Shaw. What happens if Shaw is not that good? John Birdie is going to play. Everybody last spring training was like, how many bases is Birdie going to steal? How many bases is he going to steal? 40? Is he going to steal 50? I mean, he's not going to do a lot else. But in leagues where you're playing NL or you just need stolen bases, an undrafted player in fantasy, to me, it's a pretty good stash. Now, he's got to be healthy, and he's getting older, okay? John Birdie is not 28 anymore. I think he's closer to 38, by the way. But again, I'm going for a little upside here with the Cubs, banking on some things going his way. I'm going to guess John Birdie steals 20 bases, maybe more this year, George. And if that's the case, his ADP shouldn't be 844, should be like 644, 544.
You just named the reason why I am interested in Birdie. Plus, Horner's out, right? Now, he might start opening day, might not. Right? Coming back from surgery there. So there's a chance Birdie starts right away. He's sort of a super utility guy. He can play a number of different positions. Now, even if Matt Shaw is a complete bust, Birdie's not going to be your everyday third baseman. He'll play third base at times, but he's not that guy who can play third every day. I like Birdie. I thought he'd be a much better Yankee last year. I kind of like that addition because I like the speed that he gives the team. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think he can get you bags, which is why I'm interested because I have trouble with bags. Perfect middle infielder for me. Guy who's probably not going to hurt my average. Counting categories aren't going to be there, but I wasn't relying on him for home runs and RBIs. I want the bags. And I think by the end of the year, you said 20. I would go with that. I might put the over under more like 17 and a half, but I would probably put the over there. So I kind of like the bags he can give you as well. And I think he will play enough to matter. Like I said, because even if he doesn't start, let's just say for giggles, Horner is back. I think he's that guy that's going to play 3 days a week, and steal a bag a week. That's all I'm asking. That's 26 stolen bases a year. Right?
Yeah.
I get my number right there. So I kind of like what Birdie can give you.
All right, now let's go to some of George's sleepers here. And again, these are players that are drafted a lot higher. Zach Geloff, his ADP is 248. Oakland is now no longer in the conversation. So it's Sacramento. And really, we don't know how that park is going to play. But if we're drafting Brent Rooker very high based on that, why not Geloff, George? I think this is a great choice. And some people feel like it was a pretty lackadaisical year for him, subpar year. I mean, Geloff was projected to hit 260, 270, only hit 211 last year. He did steal 25 and hit 17. If he does this exactly and raises his batting average 30 points, that ADP should be inside the top 200.
Agreed. I think I should be better than that. Now, the 211 is concerning. And why? You said lackadaisical. What's going on there? I think all of the A's should have better offensive numbers. You're not playing in Oakland. All right, which is that cool marine air that keeps that ball down, that's gone. All that extra foul territory, gone. Sacramento, it's hot as hell. All right, the ball is going to travel there. So I think they all hit their numbers here. I love Rooker, Butler, Langeliers. I like all these guys. I think all their numbers go up. All their numbers go up. So, yeah, I'm big on Geloff. I think his ADP is crazy at the, 248, 250. It's 10 teams. I think it's 25th round. That's nuts. All right, I wouldn't have much problem with Geloff starting second baseman for me, more or less a middle infielder. The average concerns me. I think it'll be better. That's not saying much. 220 is not going to help you a hell of a lot either here. But I think he can. You said 240. I'll take that run with the bags he's going to get. I think he does get 20 home runs as well. I'll take that.
All right, now Sam has jumped into the mix here, our producer. He's got one that he likes, so let's throw one out there for him. Ryan O'Hearn, boy, talk about a resurrected career in Baltimore, just toiling in Kansas City with those offenses, George, that couldn't score at all. And then all of a sudden he goes to Baltimore and he's a 15 home run guy last year. And a lot of people think that there's even more there to him. Now, young players are coming. And O'Hearn, like a lot of the Orioles, you made a really good point earlier in the show, a lot of those Orioles are not going to be able to maintain if they do not hit. Is Hearn going to hit?
Yes, but you already said it. Where's he going to play? Mountcastle, O'Hearn, Mayo, Holiday, Westberg. You keep going on and on with these guys here. Cowser, O'Neill they brought in, right? I don't know why they brought in O'Neill. They can't all play. They can't all play. The good thing about O'Hearn is he's the lefty, right? So he'll be on the correct side of the platoon if he's platooning with Mountcastle. So that could be good news there. I like O'Hearn. I think if he played, you give him 500 at-bats, not even saying 6, give him 500 at-bats, I think 20-plus home runs are coming, and average that won't hurt you, but it won't help you either. But right in the middle there, you'll be fine here, and he'll drive in 80 runs. I love this lineup. They brought the fence. I don't know if the fence is going to help him. He's a lefty, but they did bring the fences back in here at Camden. More for the right-handed batters, not left. So I like him. I just don't know where the playing time is. Once again, as a utility DH guy on your bench, a backup, like that a lot.
Yeah, and finally, we go for some stolen bases here. We got Sal Frelick, 18 stolen bases. We know he's not going to hit for a ton of power. The one thing, George, that's good about him, every day, right? Plays great defense. You're getting 500 plate appearances if healthy.
Once again, bags. All right, bags and average is not going to hurt you there. I have no problem with Sal Frelick here. This guy, once again, these are the kind of guys that I need to draft more of, and I know that because I need to protect my stolen bases, which I don't do a good job of.
Yeah, agreed. All right, we'll be back and take a look at some pitchers on the sleeper.
Brady Tkachuk saying that if his brother did miss that overtime period against Canada like we saw him do, it must be serious out there. And of course, Brady Tkachuk, not a doctor, but you've got to wonder, the status of Matthew Tkachuk and what we're going to find out.
Game time for all of these teams and all these players that were, teammates. Now they're facing off against each other. Now they're back to being teammates, whatever it might be. Like, it's time to get things rolling back in the right direction.
HL today, only on SportsGrid.
We know the Knicks are talented. They're 37-20. It's not a bad season by any stretch. They're just not beating the upper echelon team.
This is the Knicks team right now. They're a very good team. And I'm a Knicks fan. You can't look at there and say, this team can win a championship. They're not good enough. They're not good enough defensively. Are we the New York Knicks or are we the New York Fugazis? Just forget about it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You have Duke the 1, Houston the 2. They're the 2 best defensive teams in the country. I want to see them play for the right to go to the Final Four because I think that would be a kick-ass game.
Duke is really great on both ends of the floor. They can score and they can defend, and that's why they win by big numbers all the time, because they're really good on both ends of the floor. I don't trust Houston's offense.
Pharrell coast to coast, only on SportsGrid. The Eagles got it done. If you back them, you're celebrating. Football season may be over, but the action never stops.
Are you ready for some baseball?
At SportsGrid, we're always in the game. We bring you 24/7 betting insights, expert picks, and real-time analysis. Next big play is already in motion. Are you ready? It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to Fantasy Sports here on SportsGrid. Time to take a look at some sleepers on the pitching side of things. And certainly, I got to say right now, there's no question to me that the Mets rotation, George, is wide freaking open here. I mean, Clay Holmes is your opening day starter. So I dug deep for this one to find somebody in a good rotation, a bad rotation with an amazing offense, and I landed on this guy. Am I crazy, George, with Griffin Canning? He struck out 130. I forget wins, okay, because we don't know what's going to happen here, but how good is this Mets offense? Like, if this guy can go 5-6 innings with an ERA of mid-4s, he's an absolute steal going this late. Maybe I'm nuts here, but I tried to find some diamond in the rough here on the Mets.
The Mets have some issues, right? They've got some problems. They're going to remind me of the late 80s Yankees. There's a lot of 9-7 games coming. All right, they can hit like it's no tomorrow. Right, I think the Mets offense is going to be great there with Soto, Alonso, Lindor, Nemo, Vientos, who I really like. So disappointed I didn't get him on Monday night in that draft there. Once again, home league, New York, he went higher than he probably should have. But listen, there's a chance. You're going to get your W's, all right? Because I think if you can stay your 5 innings, he's going to win games, giving up 4 runs in 5 innings because they're going to win 7-6 later. All right, whatever it might be here. Manaea's out. Montas is out. You said Senga. I don't even know what's going on with this guy. Holmes, your opening day starter. Peterson's probably your number 2. I mean, my issue would be this. What happens when they're healthy? Now, I understand there could be other injuries, so maybe that never matters here. But Manaea's, I think, throwing now. So theoretically, he's back late April, May. Montas probably more mid-May, June. What happens when everybody's healthy? Does he have a rotation? He needs to pitch well, which you need him to pitch well anyway. All right, he's a late round guy. You sort of had nothing to lose here, right? Late round, throw it at the dartboards, mud at the wall, see if it sticks. I don't mind this. I don't. So I think he could be a guy. I'm not expecting it. That's the thing here. But we're all going to have guys like this. But maybe it hits, maybe it doesn't. So I don't mind this. No.
All right, so now here's another deeper sleeper, Ben Lively, the reclamation project that is Ben Lively. I mean, George, he won 13 games last year for Cleveland. Remember when Lively was a top prospect and was like done? Cleveland is this factory of fixing pitchers. 118 strikeouts. You're not getting 200 strikeouts from Ben Lively. So George, people are not drafting him very high. But is there something to be said for having Class A back of the game? This guy goes deep, close game. I don't know. I feel like this is just a little too low. I mean, he could be my SP5 in a 12-team league.
I like Lively better than Canning. All right. You already said it. Cleveland, They develop pitchers, they fix, whatever you want to call it. What you call it, pitching factory? Absolutely true here. I like Lively a bunch here. For what you can get him late round, yeah, he's not sexy. All right, but nobody drafted that late as sexy. He's safer, where I think you're going to be okay with him no matter what happens. You're going to be okay with Lively here. He's got a job. I'm not worried about him losing a job at some point unless he pitches terribly here. And then the ballpark, people think Cleveland's a hitter's ballpark. So it looks like it's not. It's a pitcher's ballpark here. So I like your Lively pick here. Yeah, I'm on board with Lively.
All right, so now let's go to one that's not necessarily a big sleeper, but I'm very curious to your thoughts, George, on Walker Buehler, who looked so great in the postseason and is switching leagues. He's switching teams. Look, those numbers, throw them out. Those are not Walker Buehler numbers. What will they be this year?
I mean, he went very late in my draft on Monday, which is surprising. I thought he would go much. I think I have a higher opinion of Buehler than most. All right. I would probably take him between rounds 10 and 12. But he goes really around 18. He goes much higher than I expect there for Walker Buehler. He's pitching in Fenway. All right. So he's got to make that adjustment here. But I think the year after the surgery, a full year after the surgery now, all right, after he came back from it, was very good in the postseason. I think he's going to be Walker Buehler again. Do I think he's going deep into games? No. I think those days are done. Do I think he's pitching 200 innings? Probably not. But from where I can get him, the risk is more than worth it to me. I think Boston's going to be a better team. So I think that he's going to have run support. So there won't be a whole bunch of pressure to win 3-2 games here. Not that he had that with the Dodgers. He didn't. But I like Walker Buehler. But I'm the first person to tell you, the Dodgers letting him go and not making an effort to keep him is concerning. They know his arm, his shoulder better than anybody else. Yet they went in different directions here. So that does concern me somewhat. But I think he's going to have a good solid year. He may be half a year before you want to move on from him. But he's a guy I can't let go of, Craig. He's always on half the teams I draft on.
All right. So now how did this name show up on our list here? Sam? Was it you? George is not going to like this. Marcus Stroman. Sleeper time, George. Come on, bring it.
Well, no Yankee can be a sleeper. All right, it's a Yankee. The problem
He's right.
Stroman's going.
He is right. He is right about that. No, you can't have a Yankee as a sleeper.
Right, because they said Will Warren probably would have been a better name here for a sleeper. But Stroman is the anti-Julio Rodriguez. You want Stroman in April and May, and then you want to move on. Well, Julio Rodriguez, you want to trade for in June once he wakes up here. Stroman, listen, he was terrible last year. Anyway, you look at it, the Yankees benched him. He didn't pitch the last half. He didn't pitch in the playoffs here. And the Yankees would have given him away for a bag of baseballs this spring, but nobody wanted him. Mainly because if he pitches, you said 150 innings, that's the devil's mark for the Yankees. If he pitches that, then his option picks up next year. So the Yankees do not want him to reach that because they want to move on from this contract here. I think he'll be fine the first 2 months, and you're going to need to move on here. He is getting racked in spring training, by the way, but that spring training, he's a veteran, just getting his work in. Not so worried about that. Going to start game 2 for the Yankees against Milwaukee. Like I said, first couple of months, I think you'll be okay, and then you want to move on. That's his history. He's a 5-and-fly guy. All right, he's not going through that lineup 3 times yet. Just keep that in mind.
All right, and finally, we get to, this is a sleeper for a lot of people in the community. That's Jake Irvin, 156 strikeouts last year. More is expected. I'm not surprised to see him because of 2 reasons. Yes, he is a sleeper, and the other reason, he's a Washington National. So, of course, he's going to make our list.
Why? Is somebody a Nationals fan? Juan Soto, great defensive player. Listen, Irvin's fine. Once again, deeper guy. You're not relying on him to start game in and game out. He was good last year. The Nationals are a better team than they're giving credit for. People sort of forgetting about them. Are they going to compete with the the Phillies, Braves, and Mets? Probably not. But I think they'll be a more of a representative team this year. Irvin's a guy I like to be your SP5, SP6 matchup guy. You'll be fine.
All right, we got to take a quick time out here on the show. More fantasy sports today coming your way. Less Yankees talk, more Nationals. That's what we do here on Fantasy Sports Today. Draft season's coming up. Don't forget Joe Pisapia at Matt Stryker Sunday morning.
Brady Kachuk saying that if his brother did miss, that overtime period against Canada, like we saw him do, it must be serious out there. And of course, Brady Tkachuk, not a doctor, but you've got to wonder the status of Matthew Tkachuk and what we're going to find out.
Game time for all of these teams and all these players that were, teammates. Now they're facing off against each other. Now they're back to being teammates, whatever it might be. Like, it's time to get things rolling back in the right direction.
HL today, only on SportsGrid.
We know the Knicks are talented. They're 37-20. It's not a bad season by any stretch. They're just not beating the upper echelon team.
This is the Knicks team right now. They're a very good team. And I'm a Knicks fan. You can't look at there and say, this team can win a championship. They're not good enough. They're not good enough defensively. Are we the New York Knicks or are we the New York Fugazis? Forget about it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You have Duke the 1, Houston the 2. They're the two best defensive teams in the country. I want to see them play for the right to go to the Final Four because I think that would be a kick-ass game.
Duke is really great on both ends of the floor. They can score and they can defend, and that's why they win by big numbers all the time, because they're really good on both ends of the floor. I don't trust Houston's offense.
Pharrell coast to coast, only on SportsGrid. The Eagles got it done. If you back them, you're celebrating. Football season may be over, but the action never stops.
Are you ready for some baseball?
At SportsGrid, we're always in the game. We bring you 24/7 betting insights, expert picks, and real-time analysis. Next big play is already in motion. Are you ready? It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Comeback player of the year in the American League. Some really good choices. I think a few stand out to me, George. Let's take a look over on the FanDuel Sportsbook and take a look at where things stand. So Mike Trout is the favorite at plus 350. But I got to tell you, man, like Jacob deGrom is staring at me at plus 420. Felix Bautista is back and staring at me at plus 500. Bo Bichette, I'm going to stop there because I think the rest are, too big of long shots. But, man, there's some really good potential comeback players here. Who do you like?
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you tell me Mike Trout's playing 120 games, it's Trout. It'll be Trout easy. If you tell me DeGrom's making 23 starts, it'll be DeGrom. All right, McClanahan. I really like McClanahan. I don't know if he's going to have enough pizzazz, enough highlights there to do it. Bautista's not going to pitch on back-to-back games in the beginning here. It's closer anyway. I do kind of like Bo Bichette here, but he's the less of the names here. I mean, to get over Trout and DeGrom, any of these other guys are going to have bigger season. Hope those guys don't play. They get hurt again. I don't think it's DeGrom. I can't go. DeGrom's not making 24 starts. He's just not. I hope he does, mind you. Well, I got him on fantasy. I really hope he does, but I don't think it will be. I'm leaning one of the bats here, Trout or Bichette here. I seem to be bigger on the Blue Jays than I really want to be here. I think Bichette could have a really big bounce back year, but he has to have that bounce back year and Trout not play. Can Trout play 125 games? I'm not even asking that much. That's 2 IL stints. Can he play 125 games? He'll win this award if he does here. By the way, in my home league, Trout still went in the 3rd round. That was probably the biggest. Couldn't believe he went that early here. For those who are wondering here, give me Bichette. Give me the 7-1 with Bichette.
All right, 7-1 on Bichette. I know George is a little more bullish on Toronto than some. Shane Bieber, interesting on a 1-year deal, 22-1 to win in the American League as well. All right, in the National League, it's pretty cut and dry. You got 2 Braves in the top 3. Ronald Acuna Jr. at plus 250. And you also have Spencer Strider at plus 550. And then Sandy Alcantara, who has been fantastic for the Marlins in the spring, and I would guess will be fantastic in the regular season. He is plus 400. Can you go deeper behind that?
No. Right. Strider's supposed to pitch in late April, so theoretically he could come back and be Strider again, which is a little tough at the TJ when you first come back. He could be in this mix as well here. Acuna's not playing till mid-May, and he's already told you he's probably not stealing bases as wildly as he did. He's made those comments a couple of times here. So I think really that the odds should be reversed. I think Alcantara should be 250 and Acuna should be 400. So I'm going with Alcantara. He started from day one. You already said it. He looks great. All right. I mean, he looks like, oh my God, this guy's, if the Marlins can get him 2 runs, they're winning the game. That kind of guy where he looks legit. I keep making the jokes here as a Yankee fan. He's going to be a Yankee. He's not. The Yankees don't have the prospects to get him, but I do think he's going to be moved at some point this year. Would love him to be a Yankee, but he is. I mean, he's not the best pitcher in baseball. He's top 3 in my opinion. I love Sandy. I know it's Miami. Maybe they don't get the pub, and Acuna and Strider get more publicity, but I think it's Sandy. He's starting from day one. That's my vote.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's a great call there by you. It's hard. I don't like taking favorites, but Ronald Acuna plus 250. It does seem like if he just plays from May on, maybe the guy that I would go with. Jung-Hoo Lee, not likely. I would agree there. What about Woodruff at plus 650, George? Such a good pitcher when healthy. I guess, what's his timetable? Sometime you would have to hope at some point he can come back and be effective. I like him probably more as a late round pick than I would for this award, but you could see Woodruff, when healthy, always a good pitcher.
Agreed. I hope he does come back. All right. I think he's starting in the minor leagues now, I believe. So theoretically, he could come back around the same time as Strider, maybe even a little earlier. We'll see what Brandon Woodruff here. Listen, I think if I was going to go with the Brew, it would be Yelich. You're getting 20-1 here. If he can put that ball in the air a little bit more here and hit some more home runs, and he can stay healthy, he's got the back. He's another guy, though, Craig. I mean, what's he playing? Same thing with Trout, 125 games. I don't see him being able to play game in, game out, day in, day out with that back injury. As the long season, it's going to take its toll. They're going to have to be very careful with monitoring his workload.
Yeah, I would agree. All right, so let's do this. We'll take a quick time out here on Fantasy Sports Today. A quick reminder, fantasy drafts are coming up very fast and furious. If you want more information on all of our fantasy content, you can download the SportsGrid app. It's available for both iOS and Android. You can download it now, take out your phone, and scan this QR code. The SportsGrid app is brand new, meaning we've totally redone it. Update it if you have it for iPhone or Android, because the streaming content is fantastic. The SportsGrid app is available right now for download. Let's do this. We'll take a quick time out on Fantasy Sports Today. Plenty more to come here on the show as we dive into the latest in fantasy baseball right after this.
Brady Tkachuk saying that if his brother did miss that overtime period against Canada like we saw him do, it must be serious out there. And of course, Brady Tkachuk, not a doctor, but you've got to wonder the status of Matthew Tkachuk and what we're going to find out.
Game time for all of these teams and all these players that were, teammates. Now they're facing off against each other. Now they're back to being teammates, whoever it might be. Like, it's time to get things rolling back in the right direction.
HL today, only on SportsGrid.
The Knicks are talented. They're 37-20. It's not a bad season by any stretch. They're just not beating the upper echelon team.
This is the Knicks team right now. They're a very good team. And I'm a Knicks fan. You can't look at there and say, this team can win a championship. They're not good enough. They're not good enough defensively. Are we the New York Knicks or are we the New York Fugazis? Just forget about it.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
You have Duke the 1, Houston the 2. They're the 2 best defensive teams in the country. I want to see them play for the right to go to the Final Four because I think that would be a kick-ass game.
Duke is really great on both ends of the floor. They can score and they can defend, and that's why they win by big numbers all the time, because they're really good on both ends of the floor. I don't trust Houston's offense.
Pharrell coast to coast, only on SportsGrid. The Eagles got it done. If you back them, you're celebrating. Football season may be over, but the action never stops.
Are you ready for some baseball?
At SportsGrid, we're always in the game. We bring you 24/7 betting insights, expert picks, and real-time analysis. Next big play is already in motion. Are you ready? It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, where you can really strike gold in fantasy is if you hit one of these mid-tier closers, meaning that you don't take a guy at the top. George and I subscribe to this theory, but there are always players that are taken in the mid-round that can end up saving 30, 40 games. And by the way, just like Sam's Nationals, I mean, this Finnegan, he saved like 30-something games, didn't even get a contract until March this year. So look, I mean, this can help you if you're still using this category in saves. George, a great call would be Felix Bautista. He's looked great thus far in spring training, pumping high 90s. There's always going to be an injury concern with a guy coming off, missing a season, but a lot to like, I think, here in Baltimore.
Agreed. And let's face it, he's only a mid-tier closer because he's coming off that injury. Next year at this time, odds are he's going to be a top-tier closer. He's one of the guys we want here. I think at mid-tier, by the way, he's the top of that mid-tier. I think I would have guys like Clase, Williams, Hader, Diaz, Mason Miller, probably Ryan Helsley as my top-tier guys, and then Bautista's that next guy. So he is that. And the only reason he's that, by the way, is that the Orioles have said, now how much they're going to follow this, I don't know. Teams say things in March, they don't follow it once the season starts here. But they say at least in April, he's not going to pitch on back-to-back nights. So, keep that in mind. You might lose a couple of save opportunities here. Bottom line is this. I'm not afraid to draft him. But I think he's going to go higher than what you might feel comfortable with, because it's still Felix Bautista, who was great 2 years ago. Right? I think he's going to go higher. Baltimore, they may not be a great team, but a good team. Bautista's going to go probably a little bit higher than I'll feel comfortable.
Andres Munoz throws super hard. Can you trust him going into the season? 77 strikeouts with an ERA of 2 last year. ADP of 110. I mean, the numbers are staggering here, but the more you talk about players like this, you always have to wonder, can they stay healthy, George? The guy throws like 105 miles an hour.
Well, you use the word trust. No, I don't trust him. That's why he's not I only trust the top-tier closers, and probably not even all of them. I may trust maybe the first 3 or 4 guys. That's about it. That being said, I mean, if he's my number 2, I'm happy. You know how I go about things. I want one closer that I feel really good. Oh, he's my closer. He's my anchor. And then after that, I want one mid-tier guy where I think he's going to be good, but I wouldn't be shocked if he loses his job at some point or some as an injury. And then one guy, all right, we'll see what happens there. I've said it before. Used to write the closer report every March for when we had did more writing here or whatever we were doing. And my first paragraph for the first column of the season would always be, I'm going to list 30 guys here, a starter for each team. Half of them won't have this job by the All-Star break. Hell, probably by June. And Munoz could be one of those guys. Yes, I like him to start. And what I really like about him, Craig, Seattle's going to play a lot of close games. They got a great pitching staff, great starting pitching staff. Offense ain't so good. Going to be a lot of 3-2, 4-3 games here. So a lot of save opportunities where I'm going with. So Munoz, once again, is probably one of those top second-tier guys that I look at.
Now, the Minnesota Twins have a stable of bullpen arms, and that's my only concern with Duran, Yohan Duran on Minnesota. 3.64 earned run average, 66 strikeouts, 23 saves. The guy's a stud, but does he have the, shelf life? Does he have the ability to continue and be this closer with so many players behind him ready to step in?
I think he's almost similar to Munoz, right? Once again, good team. Maybe not quite the starting staff that Seattle has, but good. They'll keep a lot of close games. The offense a little bit better, so you may lose some opportunities there. But you're right. It's the fact that there's other guys there, and maybe Baldelli hasn't really given it to him full time yet. And I do worry that I think, once again, he's going to be your closer to start the season. But what if he struggles? Somewhere in mid-April, loses a couple of saves here. Does he lose the job? That sort of thing. I don't think his hold, his grip on the job is as strong as I would like here. That being said, as my number 2 closer, I'm on board. And I feel good about it, by the way, if I got him at a price that I like, round that I like to get him in here. So I'm on board with Duran. I said, if my close were Munoz and Duran, and I didn't have a top guy, I would still feel pretty good about these 2 mid-tier closers. I do like them both.
All right, now Robert Suarez. This is a player that I don't know that I could trust going into the season. I'm not really high on him. 59 strikeouts, but we've heard so much going on in the offseason with him, George. He's in a great spot. We saw another potential player go down for the for the Padres with an oblique injury. That's Matt Waldron. Can Suarez hold this job down?
I think he can. I don't trust him either, by the way, and I'm not drafting him. I also think they're going to move him eventually. I think that'd be one of the players that San Diego's going to move for whatever they want to get. Then the ownership issues, they might want to save some money here. And I don't know if he'll be a closer on a new team. So that's my worries with him. So I said, I'm not. I don't cross him off. You know, there's some players I cross. I'm not drafting this guy. He's not crossed off, but I'd have to I'd have to be at the wrong end of a run. Is really what it comes down to. He's the only guy left here. All right, I need somebody. Somebody's got to close, so I got to grab him. I am not looking for him. I do have worries about him. He's not somebody I want on my team.
All right, and look, I think when you look at it, we talked about him last week, and I want to dive into him again this week because Ryan Walker, sort of a closer that came out of nowhere, George, for the Giants last year. Everyone thought Camilo Doval was going to be the lockdown guy. It ended up being Walker, and he won a lot of games because he basically was coming in a lot of tie games too. Oh, gosh, if I knew that he was the closer all season long, he may be one of my favorites, but dicey, to say the least.
Yeah, right. I mean, Doval was he a top 3, top 4 guy last year at draft time, right? Once again, closers, man, they can drive you absolutely insane. And he spit the bit, lost the job, and Walker looked great. I mean, absolutely great, but I don't feel great about it either. All right, if you would guarantee me he's going to be a closer all year, he's a top 3. Once again, he's probably a top 5 guy, but I don't know if he will be. San Fran's going to play a lot of close games, so once again, there certainly is chance for it to be there. So I do like him somewhat as that. Listen, if I end up with him, we're going to have to end up with some of these guys. You don't have a choice. All right, we can't avoid all of them. So, yeah, Walker I'm okay with, but, yeah, there's some worry at the back of my mind that he's not going to have the job. I like guys like Munoz and Duran more.
All right, fair enough. We got a lot more to cover here on the show before we get out of here, coming up in 20 minutes. I think that we've got some great opportunities here to help you out in fantasy, a little buy or sell coming up. Make sure you stick with us. More fantasy sports today coming up after these quick messages. And also, don't forget. Oh, we got one more. Sorry. Tanner Scott. My bad. Tanner Scott. Last one. My bad here. If I could take you behind the scenes and show you what happened. I'm out of scrolling ability here on the show. In the middle of my show, my scroller went down and is gone. So I'm just Tanner Scott. Is he a mid-tier? Is he even a closer at this point? I don't know. LA has so many players.
Well, that's going to be the problem. Dave Roberts has pretty much told us that, yeah, it could be some Scott. Could be little this guy. They're not going to have one closer. All right. Kirby Yates is there, right? That's going to be an issue. Listen, if we all knew who the closer was going to be for the Dodgers all year long, we're all running out to get this guy. All right. Because once you get the Dodgers, they're going to win. I'm not even joking. The over-under is 103.5. The record's 117. They might set both. All right. I took their over, by the way. I think they'll get more than 103.5, but I took it last year as well. So I think they're going to mix and match, So listen, Scott's still going to get 20 saves. What he had 22 last year. He could get that much. If he is the closer all year long, he could get 30, 40. But I don't know if he's going to be that guy. That being said, I probably would put him in the next category, not maybe the top of the low tier closers rather than the mid tier, because I think he is going to split it. He's not going to have the job fully to himself.
All right, I think that Tanner Scott, George, when you look at it, like. Phillips got so many saves for LA. They use so many players in the ninth inning. And you mentioned earlier in the show, a good point, that they have 6 starters too. You never know. I mean, when Clayton Kershaw comes back, one of these guys could go into the ninth inning. I will say that statistically speaking, let's bring up those numbers again. Tanner Scott, look at this, 84 strikeouts on the Marlins last year. On a losing situation, 1.75 earned run average, 22 saves. I mean, if he was the solo closer of the Dodgers, George, he'd be the number 1 closer in fantasy. I mean, he'd be number 1. They're going to win the most games. But that's not necessarily the case. We'll be back with more fantasy sports today here on SportsGrid. Stick with us. More fantasy after this. Don't go away.
Brady Tkachuk saying that if his brother did miss, that overtime period against Canada like we saw him do, it must be serious out there. And of course, Brady Tkachuk, not a doctor, but you've got to wonder the status of Matthew Tkachuk and what we're going to find out.
Game time for all of these teams and all these players that were, teammates. Now they're facing off against each other. Now they're back to being teammates, whatever it might be. Like, it's time to get things rolling back in the right direction.
HL today, only on SportsGrid.
We know the Knicks are talented. They're 37-20. It's not a bad season by any stretch. They're just not being the upper echelon team.
This is the Knicks team right now. They're a very good team. And I'm a Knicks fan. You can't look at there and say, this team can win a championship. They're not good enough. They're not good enough defensively. Are we the New York Knicks or are we the New York Fugazis? Just forget about it.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
You have Duke the 1, Houston the 2. They're the two best defensive teams in the country. I want to see them play for the right to go to the Final Four because I think that would be a kick-ass game.
Duke is really great on both ends of the floor. They can score and they can defend, and that's why they win by big numbers all the time, because they're really good on both ends of the floor. I don't trust Houston's offense.
Pharrell coast to coast, only on SportsGrid. The Eagles got it done. If you back them, you're celebrating. Football season may be over, but the action never stops.
Are you ready for some baseball?
At SportsGrid, we're always in the game. We bring you 24/7 betting insights, expert picks, and real-time analysis. Next big play is already in motion. Are you ready? It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to Fantasy Sports today here on SportsGrid as we get ready to send things over to a lot of college basketball content. Guys, we got conference championships Saturday and Sunday to cover for you here on SportsGrid. Before we do that, it's time to play a little game of buy or sell. All right, George, here it is. Opening day, sort of, is coming next week. It's here. So, basically there are going to be a series of games that are going to count probably toward the standings in your rotisserie league, but you have to make that call as a commissioner. So let's play this buy or sell. All fantasy drafts should take place before this Tokyo series coming up next week. George, dare I say you got about 72 hours to get this done.
Listen, I definitely prefer my leagues to get done before the Tokyo series. I do. I know it's only 2 games, but it does bother me if sometimes you see a league that plays after the first Thursday night football game. They do their draft on the Friday, which nowadays you can't even do that because it's a game Friday. That bothers me. I don't like because someone's going to score 4 touchdowns. You're going to draft that guy worse than you should. Someone in this Tokyo series is going to hit 3 home runs that we didn't expect. And I got to draft this guy to get ahead. Especially if you're in a weekly league. A head-to-head. Right, where you want, I can win because so-and-so stole 4 bases, and that sort of bothers me here. So yes, I'm gonna buy this. I think they all should take place before game 1 here. We may not like it, but you had all year long. Oh my God, no, we knew this. It was on the schedule here, and it wasn't. There was a week make here. So yes, I think you should draft before the Tokyo series. I'll buy.
All right, now let's get to for me. Actually, let me answer this myself. I'll sell. Come on, I'll sell. I'm going to wait till next weekend. Hit that red button for me, Sam. I don't know. I just feel like it's too soon. I get it. I understand it. But maybe the answer is those stats shouldn't count. Maybe that's my answer. But I'm going to sell this. I don't think you have to do this. You can just do it next weekend. All right. Spring training. Do you recall the history of spring training and stats? Do you remember when Trevor Story hit all those home runs? Do you remember when players end up getting crushed as pitchers in spring training and then they have a Cy Young season? Buy or sell, spring training statistics are overhyped in the fantasy community. George?
They're overhyped everywhere. Right? It's a definite buy, all right? They're always overhyped here. Listen, players, young players, sure, that's important. If a young player is batting, 120 or giving up 9 runs in an inning, not going to make the team. So that's important. But for veteran players, we all know the pitchers are working on things. Oh, they're working on their curveball today, or they're changing. They're throwing 18 of these things in a row just to work on it. They don't care if they get hit. Just get the work in and getting out of there. So, it's not important to me. A hitter may just try to get his swing down. Maybe try to hit the ball to the right side, hit the ball to the ball, get the loft on the ball, right? That's the big thing now. Get the ball up in the air here and hit those home runs here. So, players or guys coming back from injury, that would be a little bit more important to me as well. I might pay attention to those stats, but for a regular player, I don't give a damn.
Yeah, I'm going to say that not only are they supremely overhyped, but I think that people, honestly overdraft players. I'm going to buy this too. Like, there are some players that are rookies that I'm paying attention to this too, because, George, this is the first time they're facing major league pitching. There's a significant difference between AAA and the majors. So somebody, as example, like Roman Anthony, I'm paying attention. But generally speaking, yes, they are the most overhyped. It's like the NFL preseason. You can't pay any attention to it whatsoever. Although Trevor Story is going to yell at me and remember this conversation that I had on shows like this several years ago, and he was great. All right, Blue Jays. What do we got with the Blue Jays, George, here? I know that you're a little bit more bullish than the world on the Toronto Blue Jays.
Than the world?
I think the world. The Blue Jays will finish at the bottom of the American League East. Are you going to buy or sell? I know where you're going with this, actually.
Hey, they're not going to finish last. I picked them to finish first, but I'm getting 13-1 odds in the American League East. Just the best odds of anybody there. But they're not going to finish last. Look at the rotation alone here. Gossman has had a good spring. You got Bassett, Berrios, Francis, Scherzer. It's the best rotation in the American League East. All right. Yes, and I don't know how the hitting's going to do. Bo Bichette was terrible last year. I do think he has a rebound year. I think Vlad's going to have a big year. The second half of last year, he could have been an MVP candidate, and we all know that ballpark's a bandbox. The bullpen has some issues here. I don't think they're a great team here, but they're not going to finish last. All right. I said the Yankees step back. With all their injuries there. Boston, okay, we'll see. But their rotation has some problems here. Baltimore doesn't have anywhere near a top starter. All right, and the Rays are the Rays here. They won't finish last. They may not finish first. I'm the first person to admit that. I may be more bullish on them outside of, I guess, Cam Stewart on this network, who is a Blue Jays fan. But I'm going to take the 13-1 here. They will not finish last, though. So I guess I am selling on this one.
Yeah, I think it is between them and Tampa Bay. I'm sorry, George. I'm going to say I'm going to buy. This is the one I think story that we disagree on the most. Like, I just think the Blue Jays are going to trade Vlad Guerrero. I think they're going to move pieces. I understand they signed Anthony Santander, so the signal is sent there that they're buyers. But the truth is that they couldn't get anybody else to buy. They couldn't get anybody else on their team for the season. Nobody wanted to sign with them. So I just think that the Blue Jays have to try to figure out a way to do things differently to convince people to come play in Canada. I don't know why. It's a beautiful country and it's a historical franchise, but needless to say, players don't sign there. I will buy. They finished last in the American League East. All right, finally, we got the opening series coming up in Tokyo, Cubs and Dodgers. I did not wake up to watch the spring training games played. Will you watch the games in Tokyo? You will wake up Tuesday morning, George, and Wednesday and watch the Tokyo series by yourself.
6 a.m. I am not up at 6 a.m. on weekdays, and I work nights, all right? Generally, I don't get to bed till about 2, but I'll be excited to watch this game. I have a whole bunch of Dodgers on my fantasy team, my home league, and this league I care about the most. What I want to do is this. I want to record the game and watch it when I get up, stay off social media. I won't see any scores. It'll be fine. And I'll be up around between 8 and 9. So that's what I want to do here. I have a funny feeling for at least game 1, I'm going to wake up. I think for at least game 1, because I'm going to be too pumped for baseball season to open here. So I'm going to buy that at least on Tuesday I'll wake up.
Yeah, I'm going to sell. I'll probably be up and not watching anyway. I'll watch some of it, but I'm going to sell this. I'm not waking up just specifically to watch it. I'll watch a couple of these when I get up. We'll do that.
Brady Tkachuk saying that if his brother did miss that overtime period against Canada like we saw him do, it must be serious out there. And of course, Brady Tkachuk, not a doctor, but you've got to wonder the status of Matthew Tkachuk and what we're going to find out.
Game time for all of these teams and all these players that were, teammates. Now they're facing off against each other. Now they're back to being teammates, whatever it might be. Like, it's time to get things rolling back in the right direction.
HL today, only on SportsGrid.
We know the Knicks are talented. They're 37-20. It's not a bad season by any stretch. They're just not being the upper echelon team.
This is the Knicks team right now. They're a very good team. And I'm a Knicks fan. You can't look at there and say, this team can win a championship. They're not good enough. They're not good enough defensively. Are we the New York Knicks or are we the New York Fugazis? Just forget about it.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
You have Duke the 1, Houston the 2. They're the two best defensive teams in the country. I want to see them play for the right to go to the Final Four because I think that would be a kick-ass game.
Duke is really great on both ends of the floor. They can score and they can defend, and that's why they win by big numbers all the time, because they're really good on both ends of the floor. I don't trust Houston's offense.
Pharrell coast to coast, only on SportsGrid. The Eagles got it done. If you back them, you're celebrating. Football season may be over, but the action never stops.
Are you ready for some baseball?
At SportsGrid, we're always in the game. We bring you 24/7 betting insights, expert picks, and real-time analysis. Next big play is already in motion. Are you ready? It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Boy, this Tampa Bay Rays situation is a little bit of a mess, George. Like, there's this rumor that Nashville could maybe take the Rays. The Rays now say they're going to play in Tropicana Field. I mean, I don't know what to make of this. Music City baseball, that's, what they're talking about here. I'm very sad for the fans of Tampa Bay, just like I'm sad for the fans of Oakland. I'm hoping they get this worked out. But needless to say, they need a better scenario than Tropicana Field. They can't continue to play there forever.
Well, you said this is a mess. And now we are apparently baseball wants the owner to sell the team. He's getting pressure a little bit here, especially after he decided not to go through with the new ballpark in the St. Petersburg area here. And now I saw last night that he wants to sign the owner a 10-year lease with Tropicana. That cannot thrill baseball. All right, MLB and Manfred, they don't want they want the Rays to stay in the Tampa area, but they don't want to play at Tropicana anymore. Now he hopes this stadium will be ready by next year. Because Steinman has already said you can't play it here next year. Well, 1 year thing, fine. But we're not going to displace our minor league team for 2 straight years here. So it's a mess. As you said, it's a complete mess here. I think they'll pressure him. They'll keep pressure until he sells the team here. Listen, I don't know if I have a lot of family in Tampa. I've been to the stadium. It's a wreck to go there, man. That's the problem. It's just it's one road in and one road out of Tampa to get there. So let's hope they can fix the situation here and get a new ballpark in the area. But I'm not feeling all that great about it. What's going to happen? I don't think they're going to move out of the area though. So I think the odds of Nashville getting a team, at least the team from Tampa, I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I don't think so. I think if they expand, this makes some sense. But I don't think Major League Baseball wants 2 teams moving within like 3 years. I don't see it. I think they stay somewhere in that area. All right, as we get ready to wrap things up for this wild and wacky edition of Fantasy Sports Today, here's George with the SportsGrid 60.
That great introduction by Mr. Mish. Well, Craig, the thing I'm going to complain about today is it's draft season, right? And we're all doing drafts, right? Craig's doing drafts, Sam's doing drafts, we're all doing drafts. And I love drafts, by the way. It's like holiday morning, baby. I get to open up my presents when I see what draft picks and what my players are. A couple of things that bother me during drafts. most drafts are online nowadays. God forbid we should get together in person anymore, which that's another completely different topic. I like getting together in person, see the friends, see the boys, talk trash, whatever it might be. But you do online and, draft, whatever you're in round 2, and guys start asking about the rules. Do we start 4 outfielders? Is this a weekly? Does anybody check the rules before you draft? That drives me insane, by the way. Check your damn rules. All right, you would think you would do this, especially if you're in a money league, which most leagues are. You have some kind of prize there, it's $100, $200, whatever it might be. You think you would check the rules. That always just amazes me. How many pitches do we start? Okay, I just like, wow, that people don't do this. But one thing that always drives me insane, once again, you're in an online league, the people at the turn, whatever, you get a minute per pick here, and they wait till 59 seconds before they make their pick. And then for their second pick, they wait again. And you have to wait forever. It's going to take 2-3 minutes to make their picks back to back. My God, how can you not know, especially in the early rounds? People who take forever in the first round, how do you not have a list of the 12 best players or whatever it is, 10 best players, and just take the next guy on your list here? Oh, no, I got to take the full round in case something's going to happen here in the next minute. When they're checking their news, that makes me mad here. Make your pick, move on. Odds are your first thought is probably your right thought anyway.
Yeah, I'm back on Shohei Ohtani being the number 1 overall pick in fantasy as if I ever wasn't. Now I look, Bobby Witt got hurt a little bit. I think he's going to be fine. It's really not a matter of that for me. It's more a matter of, I have to just remind myself what 10 starts of Shohei Ohtani could do, or even 15 starts from the middle of the season to the end. The guy shows up in Tokyo, hits a home run immediately. He's bona fide the best player we've ever seen in fantasy. And if you have the number 1 overall pick, I think you just have to ask yourself, am I really not going to take this guy? Like, I'm going to be finding other excuses to not take him. I think you got to do it. If you're drafting this weekend, that's my advice. And it sort of hit me when Witt got hit that, like, what are we doing here? Like, it's a silly conversation to have Ohtani 1-1 in fantasy baseball this year. All right, we got plenty more to come here on SportsGrid. Make sure you stick around because it's going to be a lot of fun talking some basketball with you. In fact, Betting Above the Rim is up next, followed by In-Game Live all day long, 12 through 10 p.m. Eastern. Tons of college basketball to get to. George, I'll see you next weekend. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. Sam, have a good vacation here as well. Okay. Nothing to add, George. Thanks. All right, that'll do it for the show. I will see you next Saturday here on Fantasy Sports Today. Also, don't forget to catch the Newswire on Monday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern. Until then, enjoy the hoops.
The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that rim. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's In-Game Live, your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple of thoughts.
18.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what?
circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on